Hello everybody, this is RE4 Tuber's Iceberg video on Resident Evil 4. So before we start, I just want everybody to know is that all the tiers are going to be named after bosses and mini-bosses from the game, and you can see an icon of them in the bottom right part of the video. Also, this video is meant for mature audiences and spoiler warning for Resident Evil 4 and other Resident Evil games ahead. Okay, so on to Tier 1, the Dr. Salvador tier. Your small time, this entry is just the iconic comeback Leon has for Sadler in a radio conversation they have as soon as Leon gets to the island.
Sadler, you're small time. No.
Ballistics, this entry is just about the joke Louise makes when he first meets Ashley.
I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics too.
This entry is just this funny line.
Forget your makeup or something?
This entry is about Krauser's reaction to Ada stopping the assassination.
Well, if it isn't the bitch in the red dress. Well, if it isn't the bitch in the red dress.
The Ditman entry is about the most well-known glitch in Resident Evil 4, preformed by aiming the striker and before the red dot appears opening the inventory and changing to a different weapon or egg.
Hang on, sweetheart.
Hey, it's that dog. This is just referencing the dog you save and appear in the El Gigante fight.
Hey, it's that dog.
S.T.A.R.S. This is about the S.T.A.R.S. members' Easter egg in the credits at the end of the game. Now on to Tier 2, the El Gigante tier. The Regenerators entry. Also with the Iron Maidens are the scariest enemies in the game. Enough said. The moving body bag. This is the weird bag that starts moving after you open this trash container, until you knife or shoot it. Doing this will show it have a reaction to the damage and stop moving. In separate ways it doesn't move until you interact with it, which Ada then quickly closes the container to not look at it. The missing tower windows, while many people probably never noticed this, but almost every version of Resident Evil 4 has this oversight of forgetting to give the windows in this tower textures on the inside. Finally, last year with the release of Resident Evil 4 VR on Oculus Quest 2, this oversight was finally corrected. Missing church window. Like the other entry with the weird tower windows, this one is talking about how the house leading to the church has a window inside, but not on the outside. Ray. Pinot. This entry refers to the two classic Resident Evil 4 music videos posted by Ray on February 2, 2006. Honestly, in my opinion, I would still call them the greatest video game music videos ever made even 16 years later. NWF. This is the famous meme-ending version of Resident Evil 4 made in November 2014. A little over 4 years later, when Resident Evil 2 Remake came out, this meme exploded to much a bigger audience with the creation of the Redfield lineage.
Sounds like a great idea. Mission accomplished. Right, Leon?
PTAS Pile. Right after you complete the minecart section, there is the secret covered pile of PTAS in this room. Leon and the merchant voices. Yep, this whole time Resident Evil 4 is just a game about the main character voice actor just talking to himself. Devil May Cry. As many people know by now, Devil May Cry was made from an early version of Resident Evil 4, and turned into its own franchise. Don't shoot the water. Not much more needs to be said here besides the fact that this is the greatest jump scare and troll the Resident Evil franchise has pulled to date. P.R.L 412 differences. This entry is just referring to the fact that some people may not be aware that on PS2 and PC 2007, the P.R.L 412 weapon doesn't shoot almost everything on screen like it does on every other version of the game that has it. Haunting Ground, similar to the Devil May Cry entry, this is just referring to how Haunting Ground was in development at the same time Resident Evil 4 was, and how there are some similarities between the two games. Okay, so on to Tier 3, the Chief Mendez tier. Beta cutscene. In late 2007, shortly after the sewer glitch was found, YouTube user Magnum66 found a hidden beta cutscene that you can still activate in the Gamecube version of the game. The original video is still up on YouTube to this day. cart of dead bodies. The mysterious cart of rotting ganados in the farm area.
Resident Evil 5 Lost in Nightmares. This entry is referring to the fact that one of Resident Evil 5's DLCs takes place where a beta version of Resident Evil 4 took place. Chapter 3-1 Chimera Wall. This is considered by the speedrun community of Resident Evil 4 to be the holy grail of skips, if we were to ever find one. In 2015 there was even a $1,500 bounty for a consistent method of a skip which is no longer around, even though we still have no known way of skipping the Chimera Wall. TMP Skips on Gamecube. As the name implies, it's just about the 4 TMP skips that work only on Gamecube and nothing else. Also has some funny results to cutscenes.
Suplex Upskirt. If positioned correctly, Leon can get a view up Ashley's skirt when you suplex an enemy. Beetles.
You put your life on the line. Nobody really appreciates you enough for it.
There are 4 known Beetles in the game, and 2 of them can even be found in separate ways. Leon realizing knives work better for close encounters. Throughout the first half of the game we see Leon not faring so well in close encounters until he finally realizes in his encounter with Ada that knives are the way to go for situations like this.
Bit of advice, try using knives next time. Works better for close encounters.
No time to relax. Just a funny thing you can do on Sadler's throne. Ada, no knife, on Gamecube. This entry is in Tier 3 because I think a lot of people forget that on the original Gamecube release of Resident Evil 4, Ada doesn't have a knife in Assignment Ada or Mercenaries unlike other versions of the game. Gamecube Limited Edition console, not much else to say about this. Resident Evil 8 Duke, the other famous merchant in the series, that also knows the Resident Evil 4 merchant.
Like you said you would. Settle down. First, you must use that
Fan-made YouTube parody. This funny 2005 to 2006 fan-made parody is fondly remembered by people like me, who saw it close to the original game's release, and is still on YouTube by re-upload. Extra Typewriter. On the GameCube version in this area there is no typewriter, but every other version added once here. Okay, so on to Tier 4, the Salazar tier. Creepy face. This is just talking about how people started seeing this face peeking out this bag, and can kind of be seen in 2 different ways. Resident Evil chairs. So starting with Resident Evil 1 Remake we got these chairs that reappeared in Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5 Lost in Nightmares DLC, Revelations 1, and Revelations 2, also in Resident Evil 4 VR. And instead of making another entry for this, I will just throw in the Resident Evil 1 Remake book, that is in Resident Evil 4 and Revelations 1 as well but taken out of Resident Evil 4 VR. Original trailer voices.
Hey!
Leon sounds really funny.
No!
Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 0 paintings. Even though the name of this entry only mentions those games, this castle painting appears in Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Nemesis, Resident Evil 1 Remake, Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 4 VR. Hookman, also known as Resident Evil 3.5, is probably the most famous Resident Evil beta of all time, beating even the scrapped versions of Resident Evil 2 and 0. I would love for this to be playable someday down the line. Leon the Professional. As a 1994 movie that Resident Evil 4 seems to have taken some inspiration from. The film is called The Professional here in the States, but things like the Matilda gun seem to be taken from the name of one of the characters in the film. Resident Evil 4 and Kingdom Hearts 2, as an old video rant by MC Chris about his experience from playing Kingdom Hearts 2 and Resident Evil 4 at the same time, 30 FPS versus 59.94 FPS versus 60 FPS. This is referring to how across all versions of Resident Evil 4 besides the Zebo and mobile version, there are the 30 frame rate ports, which is GameCube, PS2, PC 2007, Wii, PS3, and 360. Then the Steam version, which is both 30 or a full 60 if you want to play it either way. Then the PS4, Xbox One and Switch ports, which are 59.94 frames a second. The frame rate of the Oculus Quest 2 version is most likely a full 60, but the cool thing about Steam's full 60 is that it's the only version with the easy minecart skip, which is not possible on PS4, Xbox One, or Switch, since they are only 59.94 frames a second. Super Salvador. This is a special enemy that only appears in the Mercenaries mode. In the water world level there are 2 of them that can appear, and he also makes an reappearance in Mercenaries 3D on the 3DS. Developer Hidden Out of Bounds. In January of 2017, YouTuber SR212787 found an Easter egg of what most assume is a game developer's hidden in the distance in this area. Later that same year, YouTuber Slippy Slides found it as well, which would go viral. Creepy Z-Lots. This entry is referring to these creepy Z-Lots you can find in the game. Door glitches. First discovered on March 6, 2008, by RE4 2008. Door glitches are glitches where you use to send Leon or Ada out of bounds, which appear to not work on GameCube, and most of them don't work on PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and Steam 60 FPS mode. Beta weapons. There are quite a few early YouTube videos of what beta weapons there are still in the game that you can access through an action replay. Leon's coat. An amazing looking coat that you lose after the first part of Chapter 1, and in separate ways you find the Ganado, Batokid, Mr. Cool and Womanizer. The nicknames Ada comes up with for Louise when you look at the well and the bookshelf at the beginning of Chapter 2 in separate ways. Skirtless Ada. This is talking about the classic Skirtless Ada videos you can find on YouTube by YouTube user Krauser921. Now we head over to Tier 5, the Verdugo tier. Pre-recorded cutscenes in non-PS2 versions. Yep, a lot of people don't know is that on every version these 2 cutscenes are pre-recorded and not real-time, except the second one on VR isn't a cutscene, so that one only has 1 pre-recorded cutscene. Floating Ashley. This was first discovered by Magnum66 in 2007, and I would later in 2018 find other places where this works, like this room. Original grenade sway. In the E3 2004 trailer for Resident Evil 4 we see an early way Leon braced himself from close explosions that would look very similar to the way Resident Evil 5 does it. Lost Plagueis cave paintings. In the second area you reach after getting to the island you can find this one room that has this very mysterious cave painting that shows this. Basement Typewriter Out of Bounds, using the second found door glitch in the basement, which is one of the few that work on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. You can go to where the merchant room would be and find a typewriter. Old YouTube Resident Evil 4 Lost Media. This is just an entry I felt like I need to make because I'm getting old and can still remember the early days of YouTube in 2005 and 2006 and how many lost Resident Evil 4 videos there are out there. Freezer Scientist Moving Arm. Despite being completely frozen in Leon's campaign, this one lab worker's arm still appears to be moving. Militia Ganado that lifts. Due to all the other cutscenes in the game reverting Ashley and Leon back to their default costumes, this one scene of Ashley being carried away is the only time that Ashley, in the night suit, can be carried by an enemy. Gamecube Demo Disc. For people who pre-ordered Resident Evil 4 for Gamecube got the trial edition of the game, and it is quite different from the final product. Salazar Room. Using an action replay, it is possible to go back in the game using the shooting range and go back to the Salazar throne room and actually roam around it this time. Our attack. They actually programmed an attack for Salazar. Airship. The 2002 version of Resident Evil 4, also known as Castle version. This version was to be more of a direct sequel to Code Veronica before it changed to the Hookman version. Assignment 8 is unusable locker. For whatever reason, this locker cannot be used by Ada, but was usable for Leon. Now we head over Tier 6, the Salazar statue tier. Jill Valentine. Still left on the game's files on at least the GameCube version is this model of Jill in Ada's dress, most likely for testing purposes, before they finalized Ada's model. Not catching Ashley by jet ski. Not many people know is that there is a checkpoint by the jet ski, so you can just reload by the jet ski to bring Ashley back to you instead of catching her, mostly used in speedruns. Shinji Xbox meeting. The famous meeting that didn't go so well for Xbox, and made them lose exclusivity of Resident Evil 4 to the GameCube. X bouncing off walls. Most likely found first by P.R.L, out in 2008. This is a fun thing most people do not realize, is that eggs can bounce off certain surfaces. Japanese fixed camera angles in US version. YouTube user SuperKanata in 2017 found out that one of the Japanese version of fixed camera angles was still in the US version, but the trigger was right out of bounds. Verdugo is tired of your shit. This entry is about how if you wait long enough in the Verdugo boss room and not check the shutter door, he will just pop out instead to fight you instead of waiting for you to check the door. Mind Arts, homing. The GameCube version has this item out of bounds in many areas. While every other version has it replaced with Ada's shotgun, you can't use it or anything, it just shows up in your inventory.
Follow me.
Ashley lighting system. This is just talking about how in 2 areas of the game Ashley's lighting changes on whether or not she is following you or waiting. In some places, where she is not supposed to be there, changing her status will completely break the lighting. Ashley never reacts to Louise's death. This is talking about how after finding her way back to Leon, after being captured the first time, Ashley never reacts to Louise even though he dies in the same room they meet up in. Resident Evil 4 interview ads. These are just some lesser-known ads Capcom used to promote the game at release. Hidden boulder. Out of bounds in the mining area is a replica of the boulder blocking your way right outside the area. Chainsaw controller. The coolest video game controller of all time, most likely uncomfortable to use though. Hammered by with parasite. For whatever reason, sometimes one of these hammer guys get turned into a parasite, which makes them the only non-regular Ganado that can do this. Hidden doors. There are in some places in the game where there are hidden doors. On to Tier 7, the Oven Man tier. Resident Evil 4 assets reused in Resident Evil 6. In this part of Chris's campaign you can see this dry erase board, which is actually from Resident Evil 4. And the same for these X-ray pictures. Also it appears in some parts of Ada's campaign. Also the dry erase board was changed in the Oculus Quest 2 version of Resident Evil 4. Beta Parasite. A lot of people don't know this, but the beta version of the Parasite was quite different. It is missing an attack. The final version has but 2 looks, and sounds more creepy. Slow, no. Like the last entry, the beta version of Resident Evil 4 has a slow down feature to help you get better shots. IGN podcast Marty Sleva mention. Okay, so back around 2016, early 2017, I believe Marty Sleva, at the end of most likely a podcast Beyond or Unlocked episode, quickly mentioned how he knew a friend who played the Hookman version of Resident Evil 4 behind closed doors. It could have been an episode of Gamecube, but I have not been able to find this clip again, but I am pretty sure it was Marty Sleva who said this. Hidden ladder under Krauser QTE cutscene. In 2016, YouTube user Super Kanata found a hidden ladder under the Krauser QTE cutscene. Freeing Ashley with Riot's shotgun. This is a challenge some people did back in the early days. Mike. Glowing Kanata eyes. Found by YouTuber. She says in his popular series Boundary Break, he found out that Mike the helicopter pilot has yellow eyes, like Wesker and Ashley. Ashley and Ganato dancing. Another unintentional funny side effect of using an action replay in Resident Evil 4. PS2 pantyhose. For some reason there were a few people who noticed in some scenes it appeared as if Ashley was wearing pantyhose in the PS2 version of the game, but playing on HD TVs that doesn't appear to be the case. Resident Evil 4 zombie version. This version of Resident Evil 4 started sometime after the Hookman version, and is the most mysterious due to there being so little info about it, also zero concept art. Tier 8, the Regenerators tier. 3 versions of Ashley's photo. Throughout the previews and final release we have 3 known versions of the photo used to try to ID Ashley. Vampire Ashley. Just a little fun fact that Ashley doesn't have a reflection on reflective floors.
Follow me.
There. But if you come to this area the second time, you're not supposed to be here, so the game actually has no idea what to do. And so it just fills with a bunch of random enemies, including one special one. This one special enemy is for some reason like 2 feet shorter than every other one. It makes no sense. And if he grabs you, all of a sudden, the game will start playing every sound in the game, and it freezes, and the game's just done. You have to reset.
Outrageous small glitches out. So on Gamecube I was able to recreate this, and find the special enemy he was talking about. Jump scare coming in. Double-sided texture rooms. There are 2 known rooms that have 2-way textures, meaning on the other side they have something there as well. Garrador Death Reload. For some reason this Garrador death animation gives you some time to reload, the same with one of the U3 death animations. Separate ways out of bounds arrows. For whatever reason on the PS2, and possibly PC 2007 you have these blue arrows outside the maze area, in the beginning of Chapter 3. Knifing the ceiling. An impressive feat that I bet most people didn't realize was possible. Turret enemies with shields. On very rare occasions, on most likely on just the Gamecube version, you can have this one turret enemy spawn with a shield. Time for Tier 9, the Krauser tier. Dr. Salvador Biohazard 4 Trial Painting. The Japanese demo disc of Resident Evil 4 has this painting of a maskless Salvador that very little know about. Numbers on random objects. So many objects in Resident Evil 4 have such high-quality legible numbers on them for a 2005 game it makes you wonder if there is something to them. Moving chains by Beck. For whatever reason these chains in this room are moving by themselves. Chainsaw weapon still on. Even after defeating any chainsaw enemy and the noise stopping, the chain is still moving.
Forget your makeup or something?
Leon wearing eyeliner trial edition. In the trial edition it looks like Leon was wearing eyeliner, or at least that is some of the comments I got. Weird Pestis amounts. Sometimes Resident Evil 4 can drop some weird money amounts. In 2020 when playing the 2007 PC version I picked up 19,800 pesetas, and some people have even reported up to 29,700 drops before. Ban commercial. Yeah, there is this weird Resident Evil 4 commercial out there that is not safe for work. Pink out of bounds regenerator room. For some reason the room with the first regenerator encounter is pink outside the area. Now here we are at tier 10, the Saddler tier. Resident Evil 4 Super Smash Bros. Brawl. This is talking about the few not well-known reports that came out shortly after Super Smash Bros. Brawl that the reason for no Capcom characters in the game was due to Resident Evil 4 being announced for PS2 before the Gamecube version even released. 2008 mobile Japanese only version. To end this all, I want to pick the one that felt like I've seen this before back in 2006 or 2007, but could never find anything about it. That was until October of last year, when YouTuber user Stop Skeletons from Fighting finally found what I had been looking for, the 2008 mobile phone version of Resident Evil 4. Not the iOS or Android version, or even the Zeebo version. He found footage of it from an old YouTube user who did Resident Evil 4 glitches back in 2007. Dark Shinobu, which is video of the mobile version from February 2008, is still up to this day. I used to message that guy on YouTube back in 2008 on my old RE4 2008 channel, and Dark Shinobu still makes YouTube videos to this day. Anyway, finally the mystery of the pre-iOS and Android mobile version of Resident Evil 4 I saw back around 2006 or 7 is finally solved. Well, that wraps up my Iceberg video of Resident Evil 4. Is there anything you think I should add or talk about on it? Special thanks to naturalreaders.com. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.